And good evening to you. I'm Marnie Hughes. We have a special edition of NewsNation Prime for you tonight, an inside look at the industry that is powering America. Truck drivers on the roads every day, bringing us more than 70% of everything that we eat, we drink, and wear. It is a job that doesn't get a lot of appreciation at a time when we are relying on these men and women more than ever. Tonight, over the next hour, we are bringing you stories from behind the wheel of a changing industry and a look at the challenges through the eyes of truckers. And that begins with senior national correspondent Brian Enton.
In an ever-changing nation, there's been one constant. American truckers. A job that's older than the roads and highways we travel every day, meeting every demand throughout the decade. Workhorses of the U.S. military, lifelines of the supply chain, unsung heroes of the pandemic. America first turned to truck drivers to reach corners of the country that trains couldn't.
We roll on the singing wheels that serve America. Rollin' trucker, keep rolling along.
Bare bones, with all rubber tires, embarking on months-long journeys to deliver goods.
Furniture and breakfast food, circus tents and peanuts, garden truck and radio, silk socks and concrete, things to eat and things to wear.
Just 700 trucks were on U.S. roads in 1904. Today, that number is more than 15 million. And together, they're responsible for moving 70% of everything we eat, drink, and wear. Chris Emy is a third-generation trucker. He grew up in a truck. Trucking is in his blood. Riding with you, you really get a different perspective on the roads and just America in general.
You get a front row seat to seeing America. That's really what it is.
The front row seat to seeing America is a more than $750 billion industry, relying on men and women behind the wheel in an unprecedented storm.
It takes a lot to get the product on the store shelves, and people have no idea what it entails and what the drivers entail putting up with, enduring to get that product on the shelf.
March of 2020, the pandemic bringing the nation to a standstill, but demands for goods were never higher. So many truckers kept going to keep the shelves stocked and the gas stations full.
Thank you so much.
But a record number left the job altogether. Last year, the industry was short 80,000 drivers, a new record.
The thing is that, trucking just isn't as sexy as it used to be, for better or worse.
For drivers, it's a job that puts them on the road for 5 or 6 days a week, adding up to about 300 days a year.
All right, have fun at school. I love you.
So I think that it's quality of life. Some has to do with pay.
Companies are now hoping to bump up the pay to attract more drivers and convince current drivers to stay. Like Walmart, which recently raised its starting salary to at least $95,000, because fewer drivers means fewer goods on the shelves when you need them.
You were going to the store and your favorite thing was out. It's toilet paper, toothpaste, tube socks. It doesn't matter. You have some communities that actually can't be serviced by anything but truck.
And the stakes have gotten higher. So has the cost to operate.
You have to keep the truck running in order to keep the wheels turning, in order to keep earning.
Diesel once $2.87 a gallon in 2010, now over $5. Each tire is $500.
At my max, I'll take 200 gallons of fuel. You do that twice a week, 3 times a week. Adds up to a lot of money at the end of the year.
How much will it cost to fill the truck up?
If I was empty, $500–600.
Then there's the prices of permits. Just one can be anywhere from $5,000 to $5,000, and the cost of life on the road. even at convenience stores. A Snickers bar cost a little over $1 10 years ago. Now it's $1.59.
And so there's all these little tiny things that add up on top of themselves that just add to higher costs in general.
Today, a profession that was once a fixture of pop culture in the 1970s has fallen out of the spotlight just when its contributions have never been more crucial. But the men and women behind the wheel say they'll keep going and adapting like so many before them have.
Do you think Americans realize just how important truck drivers are?
Not at all. Not even in the smallest percentage do I have, and I think that people know how important it is. They see us out here and they see the things on the shelf, but they don't, I don't think, put it two and two together.
It is not an easy job. We also got the opportunity to speak to truck drivers across the country, including a woman who is making her mark on the industry. Ingrid Brown has owned her own trucking business for 40 years. She's also the host of America on 18 Wheels, and Ingrid is joining us live tonight. Ingrid, so great to see you. I've been looking forward to chatting with you all day as we focus on truckers, the industry, and the good and the bad for you guys out on the road. So good to talk to you. I'd like to start with the biggest misconception about truck drivers and the industry as a whole.
The biggest misconception is that people don't think that we're human beings, that we're like out to get you in a big truck on the road and the highway, and we want to run over you, and, you know, we don't care, and we're in a hurry all the time. So I think a lot of people forget that we're somebody's mother or father or sister or brother, and they think that all of our big iron, as we call it, rolls down the road and we're in your way. We're in the way of you getting to work or the grocery store or your kids or stuff. I think that conception, and that we don't live a life of trying to be normal. Being normal for us is being away from home, being away from our loved ones, being away and having to live a lifestyle that's really totally different than what most people live if you're not in a truck.
Yeah, and I just mentioned those numbers, Ingrid. I mean, you're in the small percentage of women who choose this as a profession, but you've been doing it for 40 years. So I would imagine when you first got into it, it was much, much less. How have things changed for you as a female driver over the 4 decades?
Oh, it's changed tremendously, all the way down to we have showers that are women's showers. Back in the day, we didn't have women's showers. Equipment's changed to where it fits us a lot better. The acceptance of people being able to see that it's equal. There's an equality in women and men driving trucks. I get paid the same thing that the guys get paid. I do the same job they do. Of course, you know, sometimes I have to change that up a little bit, and I have to do it tightening down chains or doing my loads a little different, but I find my niche and I find a way to get that done and to do it. So much has changed as far as people accepting us, as far as the industry seeing that we're here. You know, we're here to stay. I just would love to see more women realize they can do what I've done. I've done nothing special.
Ingrid, I wonder, though, do you worry about your safety at all on the road as a female? And have there been times when that has concerned you? Because that's always been my perception, is that women out there on the road at these truck stops where there's lots of men, that your safety would be a concern.
I'll be honest with you, Marnie. My safety around the guys at truck stops is so much safer than if I'm parked out on a side street in Chicago or parked somewhere that there's not a lot of people around. I have had more help and more protection from the gentlemen in this industry from the day I started, and support and teaching, than, you know, any type of ridicule or any type of being put down or you know, kind of blowing me off. I'd rather park in a truck stop. I'm not going to say that there are places and truck stops that are, you know, women have to be careful. You got to look ahead. You know, you don't walk between trucks in dark. You don't walk in places that aren't lit. You keep an eye out and you wear your eyes in the back of your head like we, mothers do, and you watch. You don't put yourself in that situation.
Right, the female intuition. I mean, you do that whether you're driving a truck or you're walking to the library. That's just what we do. Talk to me about some of the biggest challenges that you face out there on the road. I know that since 2015, you've been really focusing your attention on safety on the road, kind of the general motoring public. What still needs to be addressed with that challenge?
Education, I can't scream that enough, is the general motor public does not realize what it is and what it takes of maneuvering around us in a 80,000-pound truck. And by that, it's like cutting us off or realizing that we have to make a really wide turn to get in somewhere, and that right side is our blind spot. So if you can see us, we may not be able to see you. Getting that education out, whether it's to, learners permits, to even the elderly, and getting that out to even other commercial motor vehicle, and reminding them of being, don't be complacent. Just the education of watching what we do, because we can't move as fast as you can in a car.
Got to share the road, and to be honest, we need more people like you out there paying attention to safety for truckers and for the general motoring public. Ingrid, it is a pleasure to talk to you. I'm out of time, but the host of America on 18 Wheels, I know you sacrifice a lot to do what you do, and thank you for your message tonight.
Thank you so much. I deeply appreciate y'all having us, and thank you for this series. And, America moves by truck.
God bless you. Isn't she great? Coming up next, the crisis within this multi-billion-dollar industry. They are short about 80,000 truckers, but some schools are going to great lengths to get more people behind the wheel. That is next. Plus, what's life like out on the open road? Things get interesting when it comes to everyday living. Correspondent Brian Enton will be back taking us on a trip across state lines in one of these big rigs. Next on this special edition of NewsNation Prime. America's truck drivers are responsible for delivering more than 70% of everything that we eat, drink, and wear. But the pandemic led to a record number of truck drivers leaving the job, and more positions than ever before are open. In fact, the American Trucking Association estimates the nation is short 80,000 drivers. That's because turnover is high. The average annual turnover rate for long-haul drivers is 90%. And although some experts point to long hours or pay that hasn't evolved enough, others say the job just isn't as attractive as it used to be. So truck driving schools are targeting a new generation, trying to change the perception about the industry. Correspondent Nancy Liu has that story.
Class is in session at Masters Trucking Academy in Southern California, and among the students, more and more women.
It is so exciting to see so many more women coming into this industry. Your clutch controls the speed of the vehicle as well. So
Instructor Kania Davila says men remain the clear majority, but change is underway.
We could have 2, 3 women at a time on each session, when before it used to only be one in the whole program. Now we're seeing more and more women just really stepping it up. Okay, clutch it all the way in, put it on neutral. Make sure it wiggles, engage your brakes, and there you are.
The job is not easy, and while I could never cut it, many women do, spending up to $6,000 to attend trucking school.
I actually wanted to do this like 10 years ago, but I was so afraid because I always thought this was like a man's industry, so I was afraid of the unknown.
Okay, and now what have you learned?
I'm like, wow, we can actually conquer this and do it.
39-year-old Ebony Nims is turning to trucking after a career as a bus driver.
So it's not so uncommon to hear, oh, you're a trucker. They'd be more surprised and intrigued to see you get out of a big vehicle like, you just drove that long trailer? Yes, I did.
It's to identify the height, width, and length of my vehicle.
According to the American Trucking Association, women are still less than 8% of the industry workforce, which is expected to face a shortage of 160,000 drivers by 2030, mainly due to older drivers retiring.
We saw this as an industry problem that's deserving of an industry solution.
Dave Dyne is a trucker turned teacher who is on a mission to deliver a long-term solution.
You know, ask any parent, what do you want for your kid? Very few parents are going to say, I want my kid to grow up to be a truck driver, right?
Dyne has developed an innovative trucking program at Peterson High School in Central California, where kids are prepped to obtain their commercial driver's licenses. It is changing goals and perceptions about truckers.
They keep the economy running. They bring everything, like, they bring food to your table, basically. They bring, like, they make everything around you is there because of truckers. Like this truck here, all the parts from truckers. This fence from truck drivers.
Some students are excelling for the first time, just as Dyne did when he went to trucking school.
And I had this epiphany moment where I'm like, hold on, I'm not stupid. I just didn't care in high school. And I see so many young people going through the educational system today that plainly just don't care. And I think it's partially our fault because we don't give them anything to care about.
It's crazy that never really crossed my mind to be a truck driver until I took a class. I was like, you know what, I could do this and I could make good money and I could do all these things. And I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Javier Diaz was among the first to go through the Peterson program 5 years ago. He returned recently with quite a life update.
I walk outside and I look over and I see this beautiful, newer Freightliner truck. And he's just standing next to this truck with the biggest grin on his face. And he says, Mr. Dyne, he goes, I'm starting my own trucking company.
Diaz invested $85,000 for this rig, which is already worth more, and he is clearly set to become more.
Now I make my own rules. I can stop whenever I want. I can not work if I don't want to. Even being on a company or working for another owner-operator, like, it's great because, I mean, you're really more to yourself.
Right there, stop.
To the industry's next wave, this is time and money well spent.
100% of an investment, but I'm gonna get it all back 1,000%.
And for some women, trucking has transformed their careers, giving them freedom, fulfillment, and financial independence. Morning in America host Adrienne Bankert talked to a couple of women truckers who say they're living the dream.
Well, joining me right now, Carla Holmes and Vanita Johnson, two women who both obtained their CDLs in the past couple of years. Good morning to you, ladies.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hi. Carla, I'll ask you first. It was actually a trip with your husband that made you decide to get into this career. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I was working as a case manager / peer support at a drug and alcohol facility. I'd been there for about 4.5 years, and COVID had just hit, and I never took my PTO. I always just went to work, and he said, you know, I really want you to come in the truck with me. I want you to know what this is like. And I kind of was hesitant, but I said, okay, I'll take 2 weeks off. I took some PTO, and at the end of the 2 weeks, I didn't want to go back to work. I said, I want to stay in the truck with you. And he's like, okay, well then, if that's what you want to do, then just give him your 2 week notice. And at that point I said, well, if I'm going to be in the truck with you, I want to make money too.
Okay.
And so I went back and went to school, and I think like 5 months later, I had my license.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Vanita, you worked for a school district before turning to trucking. So what made you decide to pivot?
Well, I had just got my teacher certificate, so I would have been a first-year teacher teaching 6th grade math, and COVID hit, as Carla said, and it was just totally overwhelming trying to learn all of that first-year teacher and do it virtually. So I did not want to do my students a disservice, and I resigned, and I did something that I've always wanted to do since I was a little girl, and that is drive a big rig.
Oh,
so
since you were a little girl.
Since I was a little girl, my father we'd go on trips, and I'd see those big trucks going down the road, and I told myself, one day I'm going to drive one of those trucks. And I said, I'm going to have a little lap dog as my partner. I don't have the dog, but I have the truck. So
that's amazing. So really it wasn't COVID that caused you to get into the industry. COVID put enough pressure on you to go after your dream.
Exactly, Adrienne. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened.
And so I went to school, got my Class A CDL November 5th of 2020, and I started to work for one of the major trucking companies, but the experience wasn't so great when I flew to Chicago for training. So I came home and I finished my quest of getting my own authority and getting my own truck. So I'm an owner operator. I now run a business. So it's my business. Yeah. Freedom, a lot of freedom.
That's amazing. Carla, I've got to ask you, what would you like people to know about what it's like driving the truck? You can tell us what it's like driving as a woman, but just in the industry in general. What would you like all of us to know about it?
You know what? I tell people all the time that ask me, I love it. I love the freedom that I have. Like Vanita talked about, I get to see the country. I get to travel the country. I get to go to all kinds of states. I see so many sunrises and sunsets and just beautiful scenery. And it's the only industry, I think, that literally you go to school for 3 to 4 months, and just right out of school, you're making $60,000 plus a year. I mean, it's given me the financial freedom that I didn't even think was possible. Before this, I was okay going to be living, the rest of my life paycheck to paycheck, and today I don't live like that. Like I don't have to live that way. My life is just so much different now.
Carla Holmes, Vanita Johnson, your stories are so inspiring, and I'm so glad that you're both living the dream and that you're able to do what you want with a whole lot of freedom, as you both mentioned. Thank you for your time, and drive safe.
Thank you so much.
Coming up next, life gets interesting in one of these big rigs. Drivers have to get creative when it comes to eating and sleeping in their truck. We're going to take you out on the open road. Coming up. To see the world through the eyes of a truck driver, you have to spend time with a truck driver. So that is what we did. Nearly 400 miles on the road from North Carolina to Pennsylvania. And that was just one delivery and one example of what so many men and women do daily. Again, senior national correspondent Brian Enton has the story.
Let's go. Papa's got to go to work.
This is the hardest part of truck driver Chris Emey's day.
All right, have fun at school. I love you.
Saying goodbye to his wife and 4-year-old in Raleigh, North Carolina. And after a quick send-off, I jump in and we're off.
They tell you when you sign up that you're going to be away from home. It's different when you live that. It's much different to be out on the road without your family, without talking to anyone face to face for a couple days.
First stop is getting the trailer and doing a safety check. Then we head to a distribution center to pick up our load for the trip. First we weigh in, and then we wait and wait and wait.
It really is a lot of waiting. We're here at this distribution center supposed to pick up sweet potatoes. It was supposed to happen very fast. We've already been waiting a couple of hours. All of that time, Chris does not get paid.
With all the waiting, it's a good time to have lunch. Chris's norm is PB&J.
You don't get paid while you wait. A lot of the industry is paid by the mile for the most part. So if the truck's not rolling, you aren't getting paid for the time that you sit at these receivers.
We waited another 2 hours, and not only is Chris not getting paid, there's nowhere to use the restroom.
The bathroom problem has become worse with COVID. You'll get to a receiver and then they'll make you sit there 6 hours, but they don't let you go inside to use the restroom. And a lot of them have put porta potties in the parking lot, and there's trucks all around. You're in the middle of a hot parking lot in a porta potty that is one porta potty for could be 100 trucks at that facility that night.
Finally, the loading begins. An hour later, the truck is full of sweet potatoes, and we're off.
It seems there's a lot of unpredictable variables with trucking.
Every day there's a possibility for unpredictability.
We're driving from Raleigh, North Carolina to Mountville, Pennsylvania. It's 400 miles and about 6.5 hours. Diesel is one of the biggest expenses for truckers, but Chris knows a secret gas station off the highway with cheaper prices.
This is a little gem here on I-95, and fuel prices can be anywhere from 20 to 40 cents cheaper than a mile down the road. At my max, I'll take 200 gallons of fuel. You know, you do that twice a week, 3 times a week. Adds up to a lot of money at the end of the year.
After we fill up, get a little coffee.
Thank you so much.
And we're back on the highway. How much night driving do you do? Do you do a lot of overnights?
Yeah, I'd say the majority of my driving is mainly between the hours of 3 and 3.
Most truckers prefer driving at night because the roads are less crowded. And after a very long day, we finally make it to the drop-off warehouse. But there's bad news.
So we just made it to our destination where we're going to deliver the goods, but the lot is totally full, so there's nowhere to park and actually sleep for the night.
This is a very common problem for truckers. Finding a place to sleep is not easy. Chris asks around, but there are no spots available, and the warehouse will not unload his sweet potatoes until morning.
I'm going to pull up and turn around.
Finally, Chris finds a spot to park.
And that, boys, is it for the night.
And with that, Chris has a chance to rest.
Kick my shoes off.
The back of his truck is also his home away from home. He'll sleep a couple of hours before waking up bright and early to unload and start it all over again.
And every one of these truck drivers has a unique story like Chris. Another driver I spoke to is helping the public understand his journey by documenting it all through TikTok. American trucker Zach Roberts is joining us now. He is one of those drivers out there on the road every day and night, and he has been documenting much of his driving and his job on TikTok. You can find him as the blonde ginger beard. Zach, great to talk to you. Thank you.
Hey, glad to be here. Thank you.
You know, it surprised me just watching Brian's piece about all of these challenges that you all encounter that I never really thought about out on the road. So finding a place to park for the night, a safe place to sleep at night, a bathroom, the waiting and delays that you encounter. Tell us about life out on the road for you.
Well, I've always enjoyed driving in the first place, but I think the problem out here is, again, parking. That is with the e-logs that we have, the electronic logging services that took over the paper logs, it is pretty much scheduled sleep. And so it is kind of a hard thing to do, to just force yourself to go to sleep and then be ready within a certain amount of time to go for another 11, 12 hours of driving.
Right. And I mean, I would imagine, Zach, that safety is then an issue, because for you guys to drive safely, you need your rest. So on a bigger picture here, what's being done to address that problem that you and other truckers say, we need a place to park and sleep?
Well, there's not really much being done. I mean, we are trying to advocate for parking in general. Like these rest areas in Pennsylvania and some places on the East Coast are being closed, and you find a lot of truck drivers being parked on the shoulder, and they're not being able to find adequate parking to get good rest. And so and then we get in trouble with DOT trying to find a place to park that it's kind of sketchy where we're parking, but we're just trying to get some sleep. But we want to do our job safely, and we need more advocates on our side to be able to get that done.
Well, we're glad to give you guys a microphone to amplify that message tonight, because I said it's a safety issue. The other thing that we've been noticing as we've been focusing on truckers all this week is the turnover problem within the trucking industry. You've got a lot of people who have been in it for many years who are getting out of it, and you've got this shortage, about 80,000 drivers short. You're pretty new at it. Do you see yourself doing this for a long time?
I do. I do see myself doing this for a long time. I taught trucking for a little while. I taught how to back in all that stuff at a local school near my house. And I love doing it in general. But I think the problem is it's not driver shortage, it's a driver retention problem. These companies are great. Some you gotta look and find them. You gotta search for them that respect you and treat you well. And the company that I'm with now does that. And so my message to the drivers that are just now entering, like, know your worth, understand what you are here to do, and what you can and capable of doing. Don't be stressed. Don't be pushed to beyond your limit, and know that you are the captain of this ship.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Zach, I'm out of time, but I appreciate you taking some time. I assume you're in your truck right now to share with us what life on the road is like, because as I said many times this week, we share the road. And so it is important that you guys get what you need to do your job, because many of the goods that we take for granted that are in our pantries at home come from the trucks that you guys are crossing the country. Zach Roberts, blonde ginger beard on TikTok, if you want to follow some of his adventures and journeys on the road. Zach, great to talk to you. Coming up next, 18 wheels and a six-figure salary. The women who play a big role in this industry while making more money than they would in many other places. Coming up. For the millions of American truckers out there, high demand means lots of work, and lots of work means more money. Some female truckers are taking that opportunity and they're running with it. Here's correspondent Nancy Liu.
Women behind the wheel of big rigs are becoming more common, with new drivers earning their commercial licenses every day. For quite a few ladies, trucking has been a solid road to a very good living.
I am easily making over $100,000 a year. And to make that kind of money as a woman in the trucking industry, I'm just very proud of that.
April Coolidge has been trucking for the past decade and loving it far more than her other career in real estate. Truck life has brought comfort.
The financial freedom that I have now, I don't have to think, maybe I shouldn't go buy that because money's kind of tight. I'm in the position now that if I want it, I just buy it and go get it.
Not only that, trucking is also footing the bill for some extensive renovations at April's house. Some women are driving and thriving so much they've established their own trucking companies.
I went from 1 truck to 2 trucks. Now I'm up to 7 trucks and I'm adding an 8th truck.
Tina Peterson is an 18-year trucking veteran who manages her own fleet and is also a contracted driver for FedEx.
I've put in over 2 million miles behind the wheel. It pays very well, and it has, but being a business owner, you have more opportunities to make more revenue profit.
Women truckers say the profession offers more flexibility than you might think. For April, it's ideal now that her son is grown, though targeting jobs that involve local or regional driving can mean regular hours. As more women enroll in trucking schools, more of the instructors are also women.
The money out there the limit is you. What limit do you want to put on that money that you can make? We have people making $150 a year now.
As you might expect, women truckers are often asked about safety since the industry remains dominated by men.
Men have looked out for me more than they've ever thought to ever take advantage of me.
Just use your common sense just like you would anywhere else. Even going to the parking lot at the grocery store, it's like the same thing. You're always aware of your safety. But I've never felt scared or threatened at all. In general, I think the trucking industry is full of gentlemen.
Driverless trucking goes full speed ahead across parts of the country. How the industry changing move is actually helping drivers. That's next. The industry is changing, with driverless trucking already going full speed ahead in some parts of the country, but companies say that's actually a good thing for truckers. Here's correspondent Marky Martin.
Just off Interstate 10 in Tucson,
autonomous driving started.
The future of trucking is coming to life. Welcome to Too Simple, a developer of heavy-duty, self-driving trucks whose mission is improving safety and efficiency industry-wide.
This is better, no doubt about it. That's not a slight on the human driver whatsoever. It's factual.
Jim Mullen is the chief administrator and legal officer for the autonomous startup, which has already created a freight network along the Sun Belt from Phoenix to Houston. And this is the truck, built to blend in, but equipped with HD cameras, radars, and artificial intelligence. It can see 1,000 meters ahead and 360 degrees around the vehicle, far more aware and advanced than human detection.
It doesn't get mad. There's no road rage. It's a no hurry. It doesn't have the characteristics that we as humans sometimes have.
But seeing it and experiencing it are two different things. So we wanted to check it out for ourselves. I hopped in with the Too Simple crew.
Thank you.
Who took me along for one of their daily test drives.
What is that?
There is a camera mounted to the steering wheel.
Is that okay with you?
Intersection clear.
So we are in autonomous mode.
It's driving itself. You'll see that Randy will have his hands hovering underneath the steering wheel.
Kawabi Brooks is the general manager. He's been working on the company's driver out system for 4 years.
Is there any part of you when you start these routes that you get nervous at all?
Not anymore.
We drove for an hour up and down Arizona Highway, switching lanes, taking exit ramps, and maneuvering around traffic, all while nobody touched the wheel.
The technology's here. We have to show the world that it works. For over-the-road trucking, we do think that driver out is the next step for this. When people talk about the driver shortage, they're really talking about over-the-road. There are plenty of drivers out there, but living on the road thing is less and less popular.
The driver shortage, a real issue facing the industry. It's projected that shortage could top 160,000 in the year 2030. Too Simple says they're trying to help solve for that, not push truckers out of a job.
If you're a truck driver today, or if you're even thinking about being a truck driver today, there's no doubt in our mind you will continue to have a full career as a truck driver.
And the benefits of driverless freight are numerous. Not only reducing fuel consumption and carbon emissions, but also alleviating supply chain delays. Mullen uses the specific example of getting fresh produce from Arizona to Oklahoma.
We were able to get those fresh watermelon from the Dallas to Oklahoma City in 14 hours. If you do that with a human driver, that's about a 24-hour run.
Providing the consumer with fresher produce and everyday deliveries at a faster rate, and with partnerships already including FedEx, UPS, Union Pacific, and food wholesalers. The future is no longer far off. It's just down the road.
Coming up next, so many truckers have reached out to NewsNation since we started this series. You're going to hear from them next. Finally tonight, we are hearing from you. All week long, we asked you to share your stories with us. Stories about long days on the road, loved ones in the driver's seat, even some parts of the industry you think we may have missed. Take a look.
One of the coolest things about NewsNation Truck Week has been hearing from and connecting with you.
Oh, hey, Misty Blue, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for reaching out to us.
Oh, you're welcome, honey.
Misty Blue has been a truck driver for 43 years.
I don't know what it is. It's the people call it the white line fever, whatever it is, the dotted line fever. But oh yeah, I still love driving truck.
What do you think about us doing Truck Week?
I love it because one, it gets out there on what our life is like and the stuff that we have to go through.
And what truckers go through is near and dear to Pat Sullivan.
Thank you for doing your series on truckers.
Pat's husband, Darius Sullivan, was a truck driver and passed away 3 weeks ago. She's pushing for healthier food for truckers, a problem we also heard about when we were on the road.
There are really very, very few truck stops now with actual restaurants. Like when I was a kid, it was an actual sit-down restaurant. All the fast food places have now moved into the truck stops. I'm sorry, but there is absolutely nothing healthy about all that fried food and all the French fries and all the sodium and such as that.
Many who contacted us, like Pat, want to make life on the road easier for truckers. Others wanted to spread the word that anyone can be a trucker.
I saw that it was Truckers Week, so I wanted to reach out.
Aisha Jetter was working at a car wash making $7 an hour before she became a trucker. Now she owns a house and has seen the world.
I was like, I always wanted to drive a truck, but I always had backlash, and a lot of people were like, it's not for women. You won't be able to do it. You're too short. You're too small. Just took a leap on faith and went out to Greenville Technical College and been a truck driver for 6 years now.
We've been lucky enough where our truck is somewhat stands out a bit
You'll know when I send you the pictures.
When Chris Smith and his wife Ruth saw we were doing Truck Week, they were anxious to show off their home. Look at this truck they named Beverly 2 after Chris's sister who passed away. The inside is fancy with a full kitchen. They travel from coast to coast transporting airplane engines.
But after we got married, we moved over to the US and I went to truck driving school. He became my trainer and we've been driving ever since.
And we're still married.
And we're still married.
25 years later.
Married.
They are a proud trucking couple, and this is a proud trucker dad who reached out to us and wanted to give his 28-year-old son a trucker salute. He's on the road 5 days a week.
He's very good at it, though, and it makes me proud. It should make any parent proud if their child decides to take up something so important and so difficult.
We always appreciate feedback, even if it's critical. Raymond from Virginia didn't agree with us saying there's a truck driver shortage. He wrote to us, "The nation has been misled about trucking for decades. There is not now, nor has there ever been a shortage of truck drivers. What there is a shortage of is drivers who are willing to work under the present corporate structure of trucking." And the grocery guy on Twitter thinks we didn't talk about unions enough in our coverage. He tweeted, "This seems to be more like PR for the trucking industry as opposed to true journalism." Okay, so maybe everyone didn't love Truck Week, but we are thrilled that we did add some NewsNation fans along the way.
You are the closest thing we have to saying, okay, this is the conservative viewpoint, this is the liberal viewpoint, or lesser. Let's try to get something worked out. Let's get a meshing here so we can do something. So NewsNation gives me something to think about, but it doesn't tell me what to think.
Can't beat that. For NewsNation, I'm Brian Ent.
Well, it has been a fun and eye-opening week. We want to thank all the truck drivers and their families out there for the hard work that they do, the sacrifices that you all make. It is a tough job, but we salute you because you make it look fun as well. Thank you at home for joining us for a special edition of NewsNation Prime.